This may be the craziest video I've ever made, but it can be a good thing when you get sued for old credit card debt. What am I talking about? I'll tell you everything in just a minute. My name is Michael Waslick, and I'm a lawyer with Ricardo and Waslick here in Florida. And together with my partner, Jason Ricardo, I help people just like you overcome foreclosure and debt collection with dignity. And today I'm going to tell you how it can possibly be a good thing when you get sued for old, stale credit card debt. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. There are a number of credit card collectors in the industry. And if you've watched the channel, you know I talk about Midland, Portfolio, LVNV, Cash LLC, and a handful of others. There's smaller ones like Unifund and Jefferson Capital. If you are getting sued by one of those junk debt buyers, that can be a good thing if you're trying to get rid of this debt for good. And let me explain why. Now, before I talk about that, first of all, let me say this. If this video is helpful for you, leave a like, share it with somebody who needs it. If you have a question that I don't answer throughout the video, drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer that either in the comment section or with another video. Let's jump into the meat here. There is a difference between the types of credit card debt collection lawsuits that you will see. First of all, you've got your original creditors, Amex, Discover, Capital One, sometimes Chase and Citi. Those folks may sue you in their own name for credit cards you opened with their companies. Generally speaking, what I'm talking about in this video doesn't apply to original creditors like Amex, Discover, Chase, Citi, and others. So if you're being sued by the company that you had the credit card with, this video probably doesn't apply to you. We'll give you some resources for how to handle those particular types of claims. But if you're being sued by somebody else, if you're being sued by Midland or Portfolio, LVNV, Cash LLC, Unifund, Jefferson Capital, or any of those other junk debt buyers that we talk about here on the channel, or folks that you may have done your own research on and found out they're a junk debt buyer, that can be a good thing in order for you to get rid of your debt for good. Here's why. Here's how a junk debt buyer operates. Now, you already know, if you've watched any of the other videos in the channel, that junk debt buyers like Midland, Portfolio, etc., they will buy old, stale credit card debt for pennies on the dollar, try to squeeze nickels, dimes, even quarters out of you. And they do that in three ways. Number one, they send you debt collection communications. They'll do letters and phone calls to you demanding money, hoping to use your emotions against you and squeeze money out of you. Two, they may use credit reporting as a way to kind of lever money out of you. If you care about your credit score, they hope that you'll pay them off in order to get rid of that, in order to get rid of that debt, in order to get rid of that black mark on your credit report. So they use that credit reporting as the second lever to try and squeeze money out of you. Now, the third thing they do is, for some people, they sue. And Midland and Portfolio and all the others, they sue thousands of people every month across the state of Florida. And the reason they do that is because they want to, A, use the power of the court to get your attention. Two, they're hoping to talk to you beforehand and trick you into one of these awful settlement traps that I talked about. We'll drop a link to that video here. And then if they can't get money out of you voluntarily, they want to use court process to get a judgment, and then they can go to wage garnishment, and they can force you to pay money that you don't otherwise voluntarily pay. They use the court system to force that money out of you. But here's the trick. That three separate buckets of debt collection that they use, each of them offer different opportunities for you to settle. Some of them are more advantageous than others. That's why it can be good for you to get sued. Because when they are sending you letters and phone calls from, like, for example, Midland has letters from somebody and they're usually signed by a guy named Tim Bolin, right? And that's the communications department. All they're doing is writing letters. All they're doing is making phone calls, right? They're not yet proceeding to lawsuit. And so they want to talk to you. And when they talk to you, they're going to offer, for, let's say, $1,000 suit, they're going to offer you maybe $900, $800 to settle. They're going to give you an 80 to 90% offer in most circumstances. And because of who you are talking to within that company, because you're talking to the communications department, you're basically talking to people who work in a cubicle, who don't get paid very well, and they have nearly zero decision-making authority. So if you call them and they offer you 90% or something like that, it doesn't matter what you tell them. It doesn't matter what your story is. They don't have the power to do any better. They just don't. And that's why talking to those people is usually a bad idea. Talking to those people almost never gets you what you need because they don't have the power to give you what you really want. So what happens after the communications office gives up is some chunk of those files will go to the legal department to prepare for and file lawsuits. And companies like Midland and Portfolio and other junk debt buyers, they have two types of lawyers handle the case. They have their in-house lawyers who work for the company, and then they have outside law firms that they farm out these cases to. And depending on the individual case and other factors that they keep confidential, they will either handle it in-house or run it out of house. And it doesn't really matter whether it's an in-house or out-of-house law firm, because the difference between a lawyer on the file and a cubicle dweller on the file is immense. There's a huge difference because the lawyers have the power and the authority to go way lower than otherwise you would get out of somebody who's just writing you letters or just making phone calls. Because once it gets to the law firm, it's serious business, but those people have a higher degree of trust within the company, higher degree of authority, and they have the power to just write off a debt entirely if they're convinced that it's not something that they're willing to spend money on collecting. That's why it can be a good thing to have a lawsuit, because it means you must have a lawyer on the file. And when you have a lawyer on the file, that's a person with power to make real decisions and even drop the case entirely if the circumstances are justified. Now, when should you talk to these people? When, should you do this on your own? How should you phrase your requests? How should you negotiate with these lawyers? Now, remember, the lawyers on the file, they have more power, but they also have more power over you because they can proceed to trial. They can call you into court. They can cross-examine you in front of the judge. They can force you to give up information about your bank accounts, and they can garnish your wages if they're successful in getting a judgment. So they have a lot more power over you. They're experienced in manipulation techniques, and they know how to extract information out of you that can lead them to ways they can force you to pay against your will. They're highly trained in squeezing money out of you, which is why it's usually a bad idea to go up with these folks one-to-one. It's like Mike Tyson used to say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. If I had stepped into a boxing ring against Mike Tyson, I would get punched in the face and my plan would go all haywire. However, if I was a professional boxer, I might have a better idea. If you're a lawyer and you want to deal with these lawyers on the other side, you might have the experience, training, etc., to be able to do it successfully, even though you're really too close to your own case to make really good judgment calls. But if you have a lawyer negotiate with those lawyers for you, you're much more likely, in our experience, in our opinion, to get a better result. And in our experience, when we are able to talk to the lawyers for Portfolio, for Midland, for LVNV, we are almost always able to crush the results that our clients would have gotten on their own without our help. So that's why it's a good thing when you get sued, because then you have somebody on the file who can make the decision to drop your case entirely or to give you an offer that's much, much better than the 80 or 90% you're going to get from the communications office. So I hope this clears up why it's a good thing to get sued. It can be if you're being sued by the right people and if you're being sued at the right time. So if your goal is to get rid of debt, if your goal is to wipe it out entirely, if your goal is to settle it once and for all, get it off your credit report and make sure that that doesn't follow you around for the next 10, 15, 20 years, hope this video has been helpful. Leave a like if it has been, comment in the questions below. Share this with somebody else who needs it. If you have any questions I haven't answered, you can call us at the click to call link. And hopefully, if you're in Florida, we'll be able to give you that 30-minute consultation that we offer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.